The Problematic Prince. Bjorn, do you want to go for a walk with me? There were no words to describe how wonderful the days were at Buford. To be in a house with a warm and considerate Bjorn and a loving family. Every day passed like a dream in the landscape of her hometown that she had missed so much. It's all right. Let's go. But I want to finish my reading book first. Okay, we'll go after you're done. After looking around the garden, she spent some time with her grandmother in the well-kept garden and chatting. Baroness Baden was busy with a patchwork and Erna sat beside her to talk about the day's planned events. It would have been a peaceful day, but the thread was about to run out. Erna, dear, would you pass the red thread from the drawer? Erna hurried over to the drawer. When she hurried over to the desk, where the Baroness kept her spare thread, Erna noticed a small stack of newspapers. She saw her own face staring back at her in a picture on the paper's front sheet. It was a picture from her wedding, but the headline stated that the Grand Duchess had been attacked by a schizophrenic madman. Is there no red thread left? There should be, the Baroness said. Erna? My dear, what are you doing? Erna did not reply. Instead, the room was filled with the soft whisper of rustling paper. Grandma, why are you keeping this? Erna came up to her feet, holding the small stack of papers. Baroness Baden's mood shifted as she realized her mistake. You're not the type of person to hoard this stuff, Grandma, but why do you keep this nonsense? Oh, Erna, it's not like that. The Baroness shook her head. I got those papers for the crosswords, that's all. Please don't, Grandma. If you read these articles, they will only make you upset, and you will think I am a bad granddaughter. Erna realized that she had overreacted and lost control of her emotions. The Baroness had probably wondered how the rest of the world viewed the Grand Duchess, that the letters Erna had sent were laced with lies about how she was getting on. Erna knew that she shouldn't overreact like this, but knowing did not help her rein in her emotions. She felt like some dirty little secret, which had been so well hidden, had finally come to the light of day. Erna wanted to come to Baden Street and forget all about the troubles of the city. All her pent-up rage at such a cruel place came out all at once, and she lashed out at the wrong person, her grandmother. Guilt washed over her as she stood there, trying to think of a way she could undo her mistake. You know very well that I like to do the crosswords, Erna. Erna was speechless. If you don't like it, I promise I won't do it again. Erna couldn't find the words to say. Erna, my baby? I will throw this lot away, Erna muttered softly, as she looked down at the stack of newspapers. Erna, are you angry? No. Erna could feel tears forming. It's not like that. Erna let out a long sigh, hanging her head in shame. I'm going to go for a walk. Erna hurried out of her grandmother's bedroom, leaving the unconvincing excuse hanging in the air. Her breathing became suffocating and her legs wobbled. It's okay, she tried to tell herself, but the words had no impact. Erna made for the walkways beyond the wooden fence. She had a long way to go to get away from Baden House. Erna walked for a long while and eventually came to a field filled with wildflowers, primroses and bluebells, dandelions and foxgloves. It was a picturesque scene, but Erna did not have the notion to take it in. She hurried across the field and with great effort threw the sack of newspapers into the swamp. Erna did not move as she watched the sack slowly sink into the waterlogged mud. Only once it was out of sight completely did she slump down and sit on the back of her heels. Only then did she feel that rapid breathing hissing through her teeth. She looked back down the hill at the path she had come. This was not like her. She didn't feel herself as she stared back at her past with blank eyes. She almost looked insane. Goosebumps prickled her skin. Erna let out a long sigh that didn't stop until her lungs felt like they were going to collapse. A mixture of bewilderment and relief washed over her as she looked at the marsh, where it had swallowed the evidence of guilt and shame. Erna was nowhere to be seen. Bjorn peered around the room that Erna had pretty much spent all of her time milling around, but now the room stood empty and cold. During their morning walk, Erna had prattled on so excitedly about going into town. Now, as he was ready to leave, she was nowhere to be found. Bjorn left the room and closed the door. He made his way outside, to the well-kept garden. There he spotted the Baroness, lounging under an enormous ash tree. She was staring out beyond a fence. "Erna will be back soon," the old woman said as Bjorn approached. "It seems like she decided she wanted to go on a little stroll through the woods, but don't worry. Baden Street is easy to navigate. You'll be able to find her with your eyes closed. Are you a mind reader?" "Maybe, Your Highness," the Baroness smiled. "Please, there's no need for that, ma'am. I don't think I should be speaking to the Prince of Lich in any other way. You're the prince first and my grandson-in-law second." The Baroness was smiling, but her eyes conveyed a fierce determination. "I may be an old lady, out in the middle of nowhere, but I pride myself on my courtesy, Your Highness." Bjorn looked at the elderly woman, whose words and feelings were exactly like those of Erna, and nodded. He waited for Erna by the Baroness' side. As the housekeeper brought him a glass of lemon water, he sat back to take in the early views of the rural neighborhood and Baroness Baden's stitching. It wasn't until the Baroness had completed 4 rows of patchwork that she looked up at him again. The warmth of the spring sun was comfortably warm on her face. "My late husband had hair just like yours, Your Highness, beautiful platinum hair. So did Annette, who had inherited it from her father." The Baroness' voice was serene as she spoke about her daughter. Bjorn set down his glass and listened intently. "Erna is a miraculous child in that regard, resembling her mother so closely, save for that one aspect. We don't mind so much, but Erna only ever seemed to associate it with her abusive father and the pain her mother endured at his hands. I shouldn't have planted such guilt in the child. We had to rush to see our ailing daughter, so we were unable to give Erna the loving attention she needed. Instead, she overheard all the nasty little words any grown-up would use for such a horrible tyrant of a man." The Baroness paused her stitching and placed her hands on her knees and looked at the horizon with remorseful eyes. She had to endure alone, and to cope, she decided to dye her hair. She chased the maids, asking them how she could make her hair blonde. I don't know why they did it, but one of the maids told Erna that if she stared at the sun for long enough, it would turn her hair the color of sunlight. Erna, being young, thought it was probably true. The Baroness looked up at Bjorn with a weak smile. That day, Erna basked in the sunlight all day, from sunrise to sunset. It was early July, when the sun was at its hottest. I couldn't find her anywhere about the house, but when I had finally found her laying in the field, her hair was not blonde, but her skin was red. The walk back was so painful for her, and she cried, thinking that she had failed because she took shade when she became too hot and exhausted. Unconsciously, the Baroness clasped Bjorn's hands as she thought about Erna on that day. Bjorn stared back at her, waiting for the words to follow. "Even now, when the sun is hot, I think of that day, Your Highness. Now that she has grown into a lady and even became the Grand Duchess, she will always look to me like the sweet little girl with a beautiful red nose, no matter how old she gets." From afar, Bjorn could see a beautiful dress with lace coming down the path of the woods. The Baroness, who also caught sight of it, looked at Bjorn with a warm smile. "Her hair is so pretty. It doesn't need to be anything else. She is perfect just as she is, and we love that about her. The things I couldn't tell her sooner still remains as a hard lump in the depths of my heart. Perhaps Annette and my husband feel the same. I wish Erna could learn to love herself just the way she is. It is my earnest wish." Erna noticed the 2 people sitting across from each other and froze for a second. The Baroness watched Erna all the way to the gate, then picked up her needle and thread and carried on with her patchwork. "I think her hair is pretty, Grandma," Bjorn said with a smile on his lips. "It's very pretty." The worry seemed to melt away from the old woman's face upon hearing Bjorn's warm words. "Didn't you say that the pair of you are going into town later?" "Yes, I need to send a telegraph to Schuber. Let them know that I am going to be staying here for a while." "Ah, good. You'll enjoy it. The May festival has begun in the village. It won't compare to the fancy festivals you have in the city, but it's a good way to kill some time." The Baroness looked up from her sewing with a beaming smile. "Did you have a good walk?" she said to Erna, who had been sneaking up on the pair the entire time. "Yes, Grandma," Erna said, after hesitating for a moment. "I'm glad you didn't come back late. His Highness has been waiting for you." Bjorn? Erna looked at her husband with surprise in her bright eyes. His Highness is curious about the May festival in the village, so I hope that you are not too exhausted from your walk to show him about. All good wives should do that. I know you lied. Erna realized the truth when Baroness Baden suggested her and Bjorn went to the festival together. Her husband was not the type of person to consider doing such things. She pretended she didn't know. She was anticipating too much, but being here and not at Schubert, Bjorn had showed his more doting side. Unfortunately, she saw the truth of it and realized she had been a fool. I'll be back in about an hour, Bjorn said. I thought we were going together, Erna said, brow furrowed. I have business to take care of first. Well, then I will come with you, Erna said, stealing her nerves. Just go with your maid, Erna. Bjorn checked his watch. I will be back soon. Erna could do nothing but accept the cordial departure, which only served to increase Bjorn's indifference. She smiled at him as he turned away and headed for the telegraph office with his attendant. The miracle of Buford was over. That was the reality of the situation, and Erna sighed as she quietly accepted it. She should have known. The scenery was different, but the man remained the same. Erna kept looking at the corner where Bjorn disappeared and only stopped when Lisa's face popped up in front of her. Let's go have some fun, Your Highness. Let's go to the festival and play all the games, eat all the tasty food. Let's go and enjoy ourselves. Lisa only just stopped short of saying, let's put that wicked prince from our minds. Erna simply smiled and gave a light nod from under her colorless parasol. Bjorn frowned and looked at his watch, realizing that he was 20 minutes early. There was no one around the bronze equestrian statue. He looked around the square. Even with the festival in full swing elsewhere in the village, it seemed like the village square was still the busiest spot. The sounds of youngsters laughing and shouting on the merry-go-round and the cries of the street vendors filled the air in the square, carried by the sweet, flowery wind. I'll go alone. Wait for me here, Bjorn said to the attendant. But Your Highness, what are you afraid of? We are among people that don't even recognize me. The attendant was at a loss for words in the face of Bjorn's convincing argument. It was clear that no one here knew who the prince was. They bustled around him without so much as a courteous glance. This sort of behavior would have been unthinkable in the city. Bjorn wasn't even remotely curious about the village festival, but even so, there was an uncomfortable feeling in his gut and his mouth was dry. He always seemed to get like this when he thought about how he had to deny Erna, who had been so excited to go to the festival with him. Even the Baroness, who was so glad to see the way he was caring for her granddaughter. Maybe that was why he pressed on with his task as quickly as possible, so that he could go and be with Erna for the festival, where he could enjoy the anonymity. Bjorn turned into a street that was lined with stalls. Almonds roasted on a cast iron skillet and filled the air with its sweet aroma, mingling with the smell of cinnamon and honey. Sizzling sausages spat and hissed, while beer-filled men swung frothing jugs at each other in laughter and toasts. Soap bubbles passed over his head, drifting on the sweet wind and casting pearlescent light. There was a stage at the end of the street where an orchestra played a polka. He scanned the crowds, narrowing his cool, gray eyes, and immediately found a woman standing at the end of a crowd. He could recognize his wife anywhere. Bjorn snuck up on her as quietly as he could until he was stood right behind her. Erna was completely immersed in the show, but Lisa, her maid, noticed him almost right away. She made to call out, but Bjorn shook his head slowly, putting a finger to his lips. Lisa folded in her lips and clamped them with her teeth as she turned back to the show. Erna bobbed her head along with the music and followed the rapid movements of the dancers. She made the flowers and ribbons of her hat bounce and sway. Lisa couldn't hold her tongue anymore. Without a word, she thrust Erna's parasol into Bjorn's hands and turned away into the crowd. Bjorn quickly took her place. Lisa, where are you? Erna said as she turned. She looked up just as Bjorn looked down. There was a second or two while Erna tried to make sense of the person she thought was Lisa, but was now a couple feet taller. Then her face brightened with elation as she recognized Bjorn standing next to her. Her laughter was an explosion of noise, accompanied by the laughter of all the festival goers. Miracles are capricious. They take your hand and comfort you, if only briefly, before melting away. Just as you think to give up, they return to you in the form of a pleasant dream. Similar to the prince.